Well, my name is George Masimba. I work for Dialogue on Shelter, which is an affiliate of SDI, and I was involved in the authoring of the scoping report for Harare.
My name is Beth Chitekwe-Biti. I'm the acting managing director of the SDI Secretariat. We're based in Cape Town, and I'm part of the strategic management team for the ACRC. I also will have a role in acting as director for the action research part of the research program.
So the key takeaways from the scoping study that was done on Harare, firstly, what we noted from the research is that we are witnessing urban growth in Harare, and most of this urban growth is happening informally, resulting in multiple informalities in terms of, for example, how people access land, how people access housing, how people access water, how people access sanitation. So that's what has been happening in terms of access to basic urban services in Harare. Then secondly, what we have also noted from the study in terms of key takeaways is that access to urban services in Harare is heavily politicized. So because of the polarized nature of Zimbabwean politics, accessing land, for instance, has become very politicized. In fact, land is used in many instances as a political resource by different political groupings. And then thirdly, what we have also noted is that in terms of responses to the challenges that the city is facing, in particular, the growth in informality, the city governments and national governments have largely used evictions and demolitions as their default position in terms of how they respond to these challenges.
I think what is also critical about the changes that have been happening in Harare is the speed at which these changes have happened. So these changes that have happened over the last 10 years are quite significant. While we don't have data yet, it is quite clear that in terms of informal housing, informal business, it probably has more than doubled over a very short space. And that creates in itself serious challenges in terms of how local authorities react. And in some cases, the reactions have been quite politicized with violence. So the opportunity for studying and understanding the challenges more deeply and unpacking the issues, as well as adding context and data, will be very helpful in developing more practical policy positions for a multiplicity of stakeholders within Harare itself. So your communities who are suffering these deprivations, as George has alluded to, your city managers who have been trying to find solutions, your central government in terms of new options for national policies, but more importantly, for the communities themselves in terms of collaborating with researchers and inputting their local knowledge into the process, because that's one of the key cornerstones of the ACRC Consortium, that we are committed to developing a collaborative process of research where local knowledge is equally valued with academic knowledge. So this will be a real opportunity to demonstrate that.
I think the ACRC's political settlements approach will offer a very valuable lens in terms of understanding the instrumentality of power and political processes in shaping the different urban systems. So that for us is a plus as a city in terms of enabling us to understand more the challenges that we are facing here in Harare. COVID-19 has amplified these challenges. Talk of access to housing, access to water and sanitation. So the magnitude of these problems have increased as a result of COVID-19, and the coming in of ACRC as a project, research project, I think will also help in terms of devising responses that can also address some of these issues with COVID-19 in mind.
the research approach for the African Cities Research Consortium, it will conceptualize and try to understand problems in the context of the city as a system. So a real plus in looking at the interconnectedness of each of the challenges that George opened up with. So how, for instance, do peripheral locations for the urban poor affect transportation in the city and congestion in the center of the city? So health system, how are health outcomes are reflected because of where people are in access to sanitation? So all of those are different aspects, and taking a city as a system approach will help develop a comprehensive understanding of how each of these problems interconnect to the other, but also hopefully result in a better understanding or opportunity to use the research findings for policy and practice change. I think an additional point which is linked to the politics of Zimbabwe is understanding the elite coalitions that have developed over land use perhaps, and how you can find coalitions that will actually help address the problems, because in some respects, solutions have often been siloed into what are communities in informal settlements experiencing and how can they find solutions. What are people in north of Harare Drive, which is the richer part of the city, experiencing? So understanding where perhaps elite interests in some of the challenges will make a contribution to having a better grasp on the politics of the city, and how the politics of the city can then perhaps be used to determine better outcomes for those that live with deprivation in the city.